Hello everybody, I'm Cathy. Welcome to another clarity video, and today I want to talk about potentials, choosing potentials. How exciting. It is January 2022. Hope you had a good holiday. The last two videos that I made were about integrations, about the mental, physical, and emotional sometimes challenges, feelings, things that we go through when we're integrating. And then as we come into a wrap up, as everything, we'll just say whatever old stuff is being moved out, you could call it the deaths of current identities, emotional aspects. As that wraps up, then we start to open up to new potentials. And it's just a continual, you could say, exploration in our human body. So, what do we do when we've got this space now? I'm going to share with you today just a technique, a tool, an exercise. I call these like little experiments, things that I've done over the years to play with my presence, my consciousness, my abilities to sense, to create from the heart. And the key really with choosing the potentials, choosing, if you have a fork in the road, or a lot of times we have like multiple forks, like which direction do I want to go? This is really about being in clarity as to what is you and what is the ego. Because most new potentials, not always, but it's quite common as we're going through these integrations that the new potentials often take us out of our comfort zone. And so while there might be excitement or interest or curiosity, at times there's also a little bit of fear or especially resistance, like even fear, depending where you're at on your journey. Fear might be a strong word, but it might be little resistances, and I'm going to call them judgments, opinions, little personality traits of our likes and dislikes. So the real key is to get clear, to have clarity on what is coming from you and what is coming from the egoic structure, from the old mental patterns, the old conditioning, the old comfort zones, the old belief systems, things like that. Because most of the new potentials, as we keep stepping into new, most of them are going to be taking us beyond old belief systems, old comfort zones, things like that. So it's pretty common that it gets a little tricky. And the ego is a tricky little bugger. It's built for survival. And so, we'll call it fear and survival. Fear of being smaller, fear of being bigger, fear, everything could probably be boiled down to fear within separation. And because the ego itself is a survival expert, it knows all the tricks to keep you in a safe little box. So, how do we go beyond that? Well, as we are looking at potentials, it's important to feel them, you could say intuit them, to sense them without any mental involvement. I've shared in a past video, I think it was called Yes or No, about muscle testing, how I took that from actual physical muscle testing to feeling within my body a yes or no, and gave that example. So I'm going to take that today and just show you kind of a real life example. So if you want, you could do this with me because I'm going to take you through it. What I've got here is a whole bunch of these little papers that I wrote on, and I just put all the potentials that we're presenting. So, kind of brand new 2022, I thought let's sit down, let's just kind of take an assessment of everything I'm doing. Where am I putting my consciousness, my energy? Do I want to change anything? And so I have maybe 8 of these little things, but I just took a note card, cut it into fourths, and I took 2 of those, and then I just took all the potentials, like what has really been coming up for me? What are some of the ideas, the feelings, whatever that I've had? And then I wrote one on each note card. This is how we can go beyond the mind. In the last video I shared about taking whatever potential, whatever it might be, maybe it's an experience, do I want to travel here, do I want to take this job, whatever, and feeling it in your body. You know, at times when we're wrapping up integrations, especially if you're still not feeling super, we'll say, open and clear and expanded, then it can still be a little bit murky. And I love this because also if you have a lot of potentials, like there might be, you know, twice as many things as really makes sense for you to do. Well, I always want to make sure that I'm putting my consciousness into, we'll just say, the best things where it counts, like that I'm really, again, aligned with myself. And sometimes the things that feel the best more egoically are like the easiest or the most comfortable, don't require much work or effort. And staying there, staying at that, in that comfort zone, you know, it kind of feels good, like comfortable, but comfort zones become more like a cage, like a prison. They start not feeling good after a while. And then people are like, gosh, I don't know why I'm feeling so. Well, it's because we're meant to keep expanding, keep exploring. You know, life through a human body is a continual evolution. We're continuously bringing more of us through and seeing you know, what we can experience, how much love and enjoyment can we experience, how much freedom, right? So if you want to pause this and write down your own, you could, but I'll just take you through this. So what I like to do before I really feel into stuff, there's times I'm, you know, walking through the grocery store, I'm feeling into things, but let's just say like this, where I'm taking kind of a big assessment of things and like, what do I, kind of looking at my whole life, you know, what are we going to do? I like to take some time and breathe, and go into what I always refer to as my nothing place. It's just really where you're breathing, feeling, and connecting through your body, and to the point where all the thoughts just sort of dissipate. If you are not, if you have a hard time reaching that kind of thoughtless space, then a good trick is to, when you close your eyes, you can look up right here for, I think it's supposed to take about 7 seconds or something before you activate the theta brainwaves. I do the Shavasanas with theta music because it just helps bring your brain into a meditative state and like the thoughts kind of start to quiet down, slow down. So that's just a trick if you don't normally do that. And usually when I connect up, a lot of times, like in the audios I make, I'll have us go through the body and then maybe even connect up through the astral planes all the way to the sun. And you'll a lot of times find your eyes automatically start flickering. And that's just cool because you know your brain is going into theta. And all it really takes, if you feel that, is a surrender to allow your eyes, you know, maybe your eyelids flicker a little bit and it feels a little weird if you haven't done that before. But it's really about releasing control and allowing the information to come through. So it's sort of like those mental filters are kind of grasping on to maintain these invisible walls, these little invisible filters that kind of filter out information. So just a tip for you. So after some breathing, feeling really clear, I like to connect with my whole body. We won't breathe long here just so I can kind of show you what we're doing. But so I've got this little pile here. I got a little pile of my potentials. Pile of potentials that have been kind of showing up in my consciousness. And some of these have to do with work, with, you know, the videos and the audios I make in the group that I work with. And then some have to do with traveling, with how much I'm working, with vacation, with other work that I do outside of the house, with just various things like that. That's what's going on in my life, but it's going to be totally different for everyone. So I got my pile here. we'll just say, I've been breathing for a while and I'm feeling nice and clear. So let's just take a nice deep breath together. And just take a deep breath into your body, all the way into your belly. And when you exhale, relaxing inward. And we're going to focus on the heart and the solar plexus for starters. So feel into your heart, take a breath, and start to connect. If you'd like, put your hand right there. And just feel your heart center. Just notice how it feels. We're kind of going into it, and we're really melding all of our awareness with the sense of feeling, which takes a focus. You're focusing away from the thoughts from the outside world, and you're melding all of your awareness into your heart. So this serves a dual purpose. It's kind of funny because simply doing this exercise, it's like you're going into your presence right now. So you're breaking energy with the outside world and almost like hitting the reset button and clearing out at the same time. And then we'll take a deep breath and go into the solar plexus. So let your awareness drop down into your belly. And just connecting with your solar plexus, let it open and open, softening, just coming into neutral. So we're going to ask that everything come into neutral. And however you do it. When I do stuff like this, I just say, make me an instrument. This body is an instrument, a conduit of divine truth, clarity, information, love, light, whatever. But you could say, I am that I am, take command, show me the truth. This is really what we're getting at. Show me the truth. So coming into your solar plexus, letting it come to neutral. And then let's go down into the chakras, into the sacral chakra, the creator chakra. Take a deep breath. Let your awareness drop down right below your navel. And just let that come into neutral. And then let's just go all the way down to the root. So one more breath here. All the way down to the base of your spine. And let's just feel this whole area from the root to the heart. Just let it be nice, neutral. So we've kind of got a 0 point here, you could say. And then we're going to take our first little note card. Just hold it in your hand, and all I want is the truth about this. Is it a yes or no, right? And take a deep breath and sink into your heart, into your solar plexus, just into that whole area, and feel what's going on now. It might take a couple deep breaths, but surely you're going to feel something. If you haven't played with this a lot, you might need to connect further with your body and start to understand how your body speaks to you. So I've done this a lot. At this point, the signals are very, very clear. It's like I know a yes and I know a no and I know a maybe and I know a so those are very, very clear. So what I've done in each case, so I took all of these and then a no, and I'll explain what it is for me. Maybe that will help you. But when I get a no, it's typically everything feels like it's closing, it's contracting rather than expanding. So we'll say that choice would be more based on fear, separation, ego, old energy. It's contractive, it's not really expansive. Or it's just not my highest and best good. When you feel your heart opening, that's like a heart opening experience. The reason it's important to go down into the physical levels is because that's where you're going to feel what it's going to be like for your physicality. And we're talking about embodiment here. So it's like, speaking of integrations and embodiment, we can spend, and most of us do, and probably most of you listening have spent a lot of time studying, listening, reading, imagining, feeling, all this good stuff, right? wherever you have been, whether you read books or you're in certain programs. I was in several mastery programs over the years, and so there was listening to audios and videos and kind of group teleconferences, and then I took a few courses, I guess, at the Crimson Circle, aspectology and threshold and SES. So if you're doing a lot of those classes and courses and things, that's awesome. And that is, and watching stuff, I love to watch stuff on YouTube. That's all relevant. But we come to a point where we have to integrate through the physical body. So it's all, a lot of people experience like this expansion in their consciousness, which a lot of folks refer to as realization or enlightenment or whatever. But there's a point where it's more of a consciousness expansion through the mind and your consciousness, but you have yet to integrate it through your physical body and your physical world, which means like really, it involves taking this expanded awareness, consciousness, benevolence, clarity, fearlessness, harmoniousness into every relationship, every encounter, whether it's family, friends, work, your finances, etc. So I'll share an example about that. Last summer, I took the summer off. I went out in nature, swam in Lake Michigan, and went to a bunch of state parks and all over the place, which was totally awesome. And I was integrating a lot, and so it was perfect to be in nature, which is very helpful. And I wasn't working at all. I just took the summer off. I was encouraged to take a vacation, and that time was all just about really presence and isness. And so I wasn't creating much at all. It was very quiet. And then when it started to wrap up, it was like, it's time to do something now. And I could sense that, I could feel that arising within me. But there was resistance to doing some of the things that I'm doing now. And so I did this exercise because there were a lot of potentials, and there were some in this direction and that direction. And I was kind of, there was a lot of mental noise. And again, as I was wrapping up the last set of integrations, it was still I was still a little discombobulated. So I decided, rather than how I normally take those things and just feel them, to make it a blind test, because I don't know what's in these cards. So the mind has no chance to have its input with this. The ego, you're just basically pulling the plug on it, saying you don't get to know. But your body knows, your consciousness knows what you've written down. When I did that, as I felt into them, there were several clear no's. I put on a no pile. And then there were a bunch in the middle that were, it's like, yeah, okay. And then there were a couple that were like, oh, yes, okay. For myself personally at that time, all of the no's were, one might have been, I thought about maybe taking a Crimson Circle course, like, I don't even know what one it would have been, but maybe one of the master series or whatever. And then one was like to sign up for the old facilitator that I had worked with, to go back on his, maybe sign up for his monthly webcast and teleconference. And then another one was to like, maybe, I don't know, watch somebody else like on YouTube, maybe watch Muji, or I don't know. But it was all stuff that was me receiving, listening, kind of learning, and those were all like no, which was funny. After I opened all the little cards, like everything in that category went into the no pile. And then there was stuff in the middle, and then everything in the yes pile was like, well, the biggest yes was probably the thing that I was most intimidated to do, which was starting the group program that started last November, Everyday Life as Creator. And when I felt into that one, just to explain to you how my body talks to me, and maybe you will have similar things, it's like I felt it all the way through my lower chakras, like a mystical, soft, beautiful, sweet, expansive energy, like honey, you know? So it was like when I felt that one, I was like, oh, I'm gonna put this one on top. So I put that one at the very top. I lined them up in linear order, top, you know, most beneficial, most complementary to least. And the other ones that were a big yes were, you know, going out in nature, going hiking, and other work stuff. So it was all about me going, creating, and then also going out and connecting with the planet. And so everything that had me, we'll just say, sitting on my couch, sitting with my laptop or watching TV was a no. It was like, it's time to get moving. And so it's kind of funny because it was the things that, though, were uncomfortable. It required work. The Shavasana, my audios, was another thing. And that was, in the beginning, the old conditioning, the comfort, the resistance was like, didn't want to do all the work involved. So this is a good tool for taking away all those, all the mind's input and feeling into your potentials. So I just did this again, like I said, for 2022. And it's kind of funny because there had been another new potential coming in that I was, I heard, I felt it, I heard it a few times, I felt it, like it was kind of whispered in my ear a few times over the last month or so, and I could feel this resistance to it. And then when I did this exercise, it came up at the top. So this is why it's good to take the mind out and move it aside and do something where you just, it's full on feeling, okay? So that's how you could say that's how your true self, your essence speaks to you, to the human, to the mind, you know? So you start bridging that gap and merging closer and closer together where it becomes more seamless. So like I already knew the answer and I was kind of chuckling because it's like, you know, I heard a few times, well, you know, we could consider this, we might want to do this, you know, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to ignore that for a while. And then I finally sat down, I'm like, okay, this is real now, bring it on, let's go. So it tends to take some courage. The other thing I will share is, for myself now, just the evolution. So last summer, it was like all this stuff was about creating the website, my, you know, online stuff for me. And now, once I got that all in place, everything's up and running, you know, I've done the kind of most of the learning stuff I need to do. I built everything. I got things rolling along nicely. The potentials now that are showing up for me are all about going back out into the world, continuing to do this. But so I will share two of these had to do with working outside of the house or going on we'll call it a nature trip. So once again, getting out of the house and going out into the world. And I mentioned how mystical and beautiful it felt when I felt into the creations that I've made on the internet. Now I'm sitting home, I'm feeling into energies, you know, I could be working here 24/7, never leaving the house and seeing other human beings, right? But, so that felt very mystical, soft, smooth, beautiful. When I felt into what ended up being my top two potentials, we'll say my next things, I felt an incredible sense of being embodied. We'll say solid all the way through and expansive. Like my presence became 10 times more powerful. And I went, whoa, I feel expanded and solid. And those are the two words, and I felt it all the way through, all the way down to my root. So I put those like at the top and went, ooh, what is that? When I opened them up, it had to do with working outside of the house, so going back, and working back in the outside world with people. And then also like a nature excursion. But the working with people one, I mean, that is really, really important. Going back to, and of course, this is all going to depend what's happening in your life, what your situation is, et cetera, et cetera. So as always, take everything I say and see if it applies to you. Not everything, there's nothing that can be a blanket statement, hardly. Love is love, whatever. But so the interesting thing about it was I felt more embodied, more expanded, more solid, like my presence had grown like 10 times. And that's about going out into the world and working with people, with being more of an integrated presence. If you've heard, like, our consciousness expands, or you could say deepens. It deepens, it expands. The walls are cracking as I said that. As we are put into situations, we'll call it, that are like pressure, that challenge us. Challenges, for the most part, challenges are of the ego, the beliefs, the opinions, the personality. And all this stuff that we've, read about, listened to, it's all fun and games until you have to go live it and really live it and integrate it in all different areas of life, and it's beautiful to integrate it over here, maybe with your friends or your family, but then you're always going to be given more opportunities to expand and to, explore new ways. And it's really like a beautiful gift. Kind of from the ego, it can be viewed as challenging. I don't want to, this is going to be hard, or whatever. But it's a beautiful gift. Every time I have taken a different job over the last few years, because I worked the same company for like 22 years, and then now the last, 5 to whatever years, I've worked all different little jobs, teaching yoga here, there, caregiving here, there, working in people's homes. I was a brand ambassador for New Balance. I was a general merchandiser for this bread company. I've had all these like cool little opportunities come up, but every opportunity is, we'll say, divinely orchestrated. And they included their challenges, where they challenged or triggered any little bits that were left within the egoic structure. Any little bits of fear, survival, conditioning, comfort, opinions, judgments, of course. So it's all divinely orchestrated to bring that up. So as we step beyond the classroom, if you will, into the real world and start putting everything that we have the wisdom for into practice, then it's like, that's the actual embodiment, the integration through the physical body, and expanding your presence through the world. That's when your presence really amplifies and expands. And oftentimes for myself, it's like some of the places that you go into, or, might seem more dense, like heavier energies. I'm thinking of like working in retail a few years ago for New Balance, Dick's Sporting Goods. But the places on the planet that are asking for our light, our radiance, our presence, are probably some of the denser pockets, right? And so there's kind of like I think like a romantic ideal that as we embody more and more and more, we're just going to be, like put into situations that are just kind of like sunshine and roses, like all daisies. And it's actually part of the deal where we are challenged and stretched. It would get boring if you were never experiencing any excitement, any challenge, any kind of growth. We'll call it growth. So that's where the expansion part comes in. The real expansion of your presence through the body. It happens when you are physically here, not just up here. So maybe you'll want to give it a try. Tune into your potentials. I like putting them in linear order. I always ask my, whatever you would call it, myself, my team, whatever. I don't really try to slice and dice things into too many little separate boxes, but I always say, hey guys, put this in linear order, put everything that's coming, just line it up for me and bring me the things that are really truly going to complement me in my highest and best good and for all concerned. And this pretty much always matches that, but it's fun because then I can see even more clearly the resistance that was behind the ones that are a yes, and like why I really didn't part of me didn't really want to do it. And then the ones that are a no, I can also see where it was more enticing for the mind or the ego to be like, no, let's go over here. So, this whole embodiment thing is about like exploring ourselves, right? It's this relationship first and foremost with yourself. And as a self here, it is you, your mind, and your body. So like learning how to communicate and flow together. And then once you get that going, it's like taking it out into the world, and that just makes your integration, your expansion that much more. So thank you for joining me. Namaste.